my last video, reacting to this douchebag, I said I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he's got some sort of link to Gretchen Voss. Turns out it's not Gretchen Voss. Had I listened just a little further before I uploaded the last video, I'd have caught it. But like many of you, I only got halfway and I had to take a break. Anyway, let's just do a little intro before we have to suffer out more of his ramblings.
I actually know Hank Brennan.
For the benefit of those who don't know Hank Brennan,
James Bulger was never an informant for the federal government. He was never providing information, and I hope we dispelled that.
Hundreds of pages of records from the FBI's files on Whitey Bulger are now public. The papers were posted on the agency's public records database earlier this month.
The 300 heavily redacted documents show the FBI knew Bulger was involved in several crimes before agents recruited him as an informant. In November of 1974, the FBI investigated Bulger for extortion. One document indicates that Bulger and others had threatened a witness. Quote, "The threats have included bodily harm, and he," meaning the witness, "is in constant fear for his life." In 2013, a jury convicted Bulger in a string of murders that he committed while he was working as an FBI informant.
That's probably the only soundbite we need to hear, confirming Mr. Valentinus's connections to the DA's office. I am, however, going to react to the rest of the stream so you can hear that soundbite in context with your own ears.
I'm sort of stuck in the middle. I understand why Turtle is saying, look, Matt, my audience hates this. I think I think you guys are not going to make the most money with this. My audience is not going to listen to this. And I said to him, I said, well, Turtle, you wouldn't want me to make you change your opinion and make you believe in what you believe, right? And he's like, of course not. And I'm like, well, I can't do that to Phelps either.
On the same token, contrary to what you believe, Total Boy can't make us think what you want us to think. I know this might come as a shock to you, but most of us actually watched this trial gavel to gavel, and all the pre-trial motions. There's absolutely nothing that Total Boy can say that's going to change what we witnessed with our own eyes.
And this is what Phelps believes. So you guys are sort of both going in the opposite directions, And at the end of the day, I think the truth, at least in my career, it's always been the truth trumps money. Good. I even think that sometimes what looks like sure money up front is more short-term money, and the long-term money, comes later. So I guess what I'm saying is time will tell. Like, right. If Karen Reed is proven not guilty, right? Proven innocent, not even not guilty.
For a lawyer, I thought you'd know this, but the jury only gets two choices. It's guilty or not guilty. There's no choice for innocent on the jury form. Or maybe you did know that, and you corrected yourself because you got your propaganda spiel wrong.
And that also, other people are proven guilty or charged with killing John O'Keefe. I will go on Turtle Boy's show and apologize to him and take shit for 3 hours, if that's the case.
I may cop some flack from my own audience for pointing this out to you, but you're a lawyer, you should know. John's killers have destroyed all the evidence. They destroyed their phones, they rehomed the dog, they dug up and replaced the concrete in the basement. They sold the house. Their indictments and or convictions are very unlikely.
And I tried to keep Turtle Boy involved in this as much as I could. And as long as we could, I didn't want Turtle Boy to leave the project. The problem was he just kept getting angrier and angrier and making it more personal and complaining constantly. And I just told him, I'm like, look, you can feel free to go on your show and bash the show bash the podcast as much as you want. We're not, I'm not trying to censor you with that. Just
don't talk bad about my homie. Look, bro, your homie took Turtle Boy down in his podcast. You should tell your homeboy, don't give it if you can't take it.
Just try and do it in what I call like a professional and civil way. Don't make it like a personal attack.
Right.
And he
Right.
kept personally attacking Phelps. And, you know, obviously he's been personally attacking me, and that's just his style. And then Turtle will get on the phone with me and he'll be like, you know, Matt, that's just my style. That's what I do. And I'm like, I get it. But,
It's
you know,
not a
sometimes,
style.
right.
It's
But sometimes you almost feel like he tricks you into almost thinking like he doesn't even believe it and it's all bullshit, you know,
yeah.
and it's just his act. But then, you know, and he'll tell you, no, that's all I'm gonna do, Matt. It's free speech. I'm just gonna look,
Yeah.
if I think he's a coward, I'm gonna say he's a coward because he's blocking his comments. And I'm like, dude, he's always blocked his comments because he just puts it out there as like an advertisement. He's not like a social media guy. And honestly, why would he open his comments when it's just gonna be, you know, 20 people saying what an asshole you are because you don't agree with Turtle Boy?
Right.
So, you know,
I mean,
it's not really a fun conversation.
Well, that's pretty weak. I've taken a bashing before for having a different opinion to the masses. And yeah, I've had to use the block button for abuse and threats. That's what it's for, boomers. I think you just turned off comments because you don't want anybody else to see how many hundreds and thousands of people think your podcast sucks.
a style or a shtick might have been like an early '90s shock jock or something like that. That's
Well, I
not what
even
this.
said to him, I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm like, you know, you can even do like a Morton Downey type of show. Is that if that's what you're trying to do it, you know, or you want to be Opie and Anthony or Howard Stern, whatever. There's a way to bash the podcast without, you know, Phelps has done nothing personal to you. He's got nothing personally against you. None of this is, you know, we're not doing this to hurt you or to embarrass you or.
Here's the thing, by episode 2 you are already trying to destroy his credibility. As I said in my last reaction, if you are telling both sides of the story, for which Aiden knows Karen's side very well, he absolutely was prepared to give you some slack. But Phelps came out bashing Aiden in episode 2, and you know what they say about people who live in glass houses.
You know, this is just the facts where the facts of the case have gone. And I think I can't argue facts and truth.
You guys didn't understand what you were getting in bed with, though, because it's not like I was trying to say. It's not just a style. This is what they do is anybody that they can't force to parrot their opinion, they will do anything they can to destroy them. They'll fabricate things.
Speaking of people who live in glass houses, Plevin here, for those who don't know, is part of the Krusty Panties plot to try and get Aiden thrown in jail by, what's the word he just used again? Oh, that's right, fabricating things.
They'll dig into
Well,
their
I've gone
background.
against like
What
when I
they
was
do.
doing the documentary, we were really going after much more powerful people in Hollywood
Right.
than are going on in this situation. So this isn't really my first, you know, go around with this type of thing, and
Right.
you know, I think over time it'll just go away and life goes on. I mean, I don't think Twitter is real life. You sort of learn to block it out, especially if you believe in what you're doing for the right reasons. And you know, you almost have to sort of feel sorry for some of these people, because they just, you know, they truly embarrass themselves. But then some of them cross the line, and if they do, then you're going to have, you know, we'll have to file police reports for harassment, or, you know, if we have to file defamation cases, you know, then we will.
That's right, social media is not real life. Real life is filing defamation cases and calling up the cops. If you can't take the criticism, get off the internet, boomer.
Right.
But you know, hopefully these people see over time. I even have friends, or like I don't know, but like my old babysitter I grew up with. She's like in this Free Karen Reed movement, and like I know who she is as a person, you know, and it's almost like sometimes I feel like these people have just been
Been what? Brainwashed? Why didn't you finish the sentence? Afraid to upset your babysitter? Maybe, just maybe, she watched the trial. Maybe she's more aware of what's going on than you're prepared to give her credit for.
I think it's more of like what's going on, and it's not even the case itself. It's just sort of how it makes them feel, right? And even she got wrapped up in it. But I mean, I don't hold that against her. And I think a lot of these people are going to come out of this who act crazy about it, really embarrassed. Right? At the end of the day, let's
Right, we're all going to feel embarrassed for standing up to corruption. We're all going to suddenly change our minds about weaponised incompetence and weaponising the law against innocent folk, and demanding justice for Officer John O'Keefe and his girlfriend, Karen Reid.
because I mean, I even said to Turtle Boy, I was like, he can't even fathom, except I'm like, if Karen Reid is guilty, and it's clear that she's guilty, and you've seen the evidence that she's guilty. I mean, are you going to regret any of this? Are you going to feel like she lied to you, or she played you, or?
Well, that works both ways, mate. Are you going to feel like you got played if she's found not guilty?
No. I mean, I think his whole thing is, if she's found guilty, he's going to be outside the prison riding free Karen Reid for the next 20 years. I think that's, and I believe him. I believe that's what he'll do. Whether he's doing it for the right reasons or not, I don't know. But
And we'll all be right there with him. Do you know why? Because we believe in what we're doing. What are you going to do? You're just going to walk away and go, yep, whatever, and move on to your next podcast. And you may not have noticed this, but Aidan Carney has been uncovering corruption in his area for a long time, long before this particular situation arose. And I dare say the corruption's going to continue, and he's going to continue uncovering it.
And what can you do when you run into that type of fanaticism?
Yeah, you try to fight the right fight. When Matt reached out to me, because I guess I was literally the only person from the other side that was willing to talk, because people are afraid of this social media.
Oh, well,
mob.
that's really the main reason I wanted to come on here today.
Right, because fighting against corruption's the wrong fight. And jamming people up in jail for things they haven't done is the right fight. Isn't it, Plevin?
Is we've gotten so many emails from so many people who have just thanked us for this, and who have been so afraid to talk, and it's amazing. And those things just keep you going. And also from just a lot of different people who live in the community, in all walks of life.
For those who are unaware, he's talking about the townies who like their town corrupt.
And I think this is the type of thing that and I want to tell those people, nothing's going to happen to you if you speak out on the internet. Like, sure, they might come after you, but if there's hundreds and thousands of you out there, there's more of you out there who want to talk about this and think, she's not, she's guilty, then I think there are people who think she's innocent. I just don't think they're as vocal.
So, let me get this right. You think that the 1.5 million people who tuned in to Just Lawyer You Know and Emily D. Baker, it's not counting the other millions who joined in Law and Crime and Court TV's coverage, who came into this trial not knowing anything and were polled before the trial ended as to whether they think she's guilty or not. You think that's your potential audience?
Or they care as much. This isn't a major part of their daily life. So a lot of people are just like, okay, I'm just not gonna say anything, And I think
it's a real fear, though, Matt, because I've talked to
it's a definite fear. There's been a lot of people who
quite a few lawyers, including prosecutors, that were afraid to get involved in this case because of Turtle Boy's blog, but because of his
And
mom.
that's where I think those people are pathetic. Those people are weak and they lack courage, and they should quit their jobs.
Weren't expecting that response, were you, plebeian? I believe the Vanity Fair article said that they didn't want to prosecute, not because they're afraid, but because the case against Karen sucks. The only people out there who thinks this is a solid case against Karen are John O'Keefe's killers, and those protecting them. There's a lot more people out there who are afraid of Meatball and his goons than are afraid of Aidan Carney.
Because if they're going to allow someone to use X as an avenue for witness intimidation and silencing of free speech, and they're not doing their job. They're letting you could argue, one has to ask, is Turtle Boy using X for witness intimidation? Is Turtle Boy trying to taint the jury pool?
Out one side of your face, you say freedom of speech, and then out the other side of your face, you're calling Turtle Boy's own opinion witness intimidation and jury tampering?
Is Turtle Boy Karen Reed's mouthpiece? And when we talk about that, we're talking about someone who could be a murderer. And because she's a female, and because some people think she's attractive, and she's young and she's smart and sophisticated,
Are you the McAlbert's mouthpiece? This cuts both ways, mate. And this is why you should have had a more balanced view in your podcast. As I said before, this is a win-win if you show both sides of the story. But right now, you're on the lose-lose side.
They think it's okay. But what I would say is, if this was a mob boss in the same exact position, and the mob boss was on trial for killing a police officer, and then the mob boss was feeding information to somebody, was feeding addresses of witnesses.
Dude, everybody's names and addresses are public record in America. Not so in Australia. Our government actually protects us like that. But even I, as an Australian, have access to all of your public records, which includes not only your address, but your latest phone number and carrier. Turtle Boy didn't need to tell anyone anything.
And was feeding grand jury information to somebody to then use on the internet to intimidate the public, the press, the police, and potential jurors. The FBI and the state police would be all over it.
Yep. If that's what he was doing, then they'd be all over it. But instead, we've got the actual henchman of Meatball trying to charge him with witness intimidation, and they're failing miserably.
But because I think they kind of lost the court of public opinion so quickly that many of them just pussied out, especially our media. I mean, our media is pathetic right now. So many of them are just riding the fence. They're happy to report, okay, Turtle Boy went to court today. Turtle Boy received these charges, but that's about it.
Here's a thought. Maybe they're a bit smarter than you, and they know that they'll keep 100% of the viewership if they sit on the fence. Don't get me wrong, none of us support what the media's doing. None of them have acknowledged that it was Turtle Boy Daily News who broke the last half a dozen scandals out of Norfolk County. Nonetheless, they're still getting more viewership than you are, so who's the idiot here?
No one's looking into, why isn't anyone looking into the charities? How legal is a charity? Where is that money going? Where did that money come from? Is all of that money legit money? Has any of that money been laundered? Has that money been spent correctly? Who received that money?
Let me answer those questions for you one at a time. The charity's legal. It was set up by Karen Reed's legal team because, a defendant is allowed to raise money for their defence. The money is going to Karen Reed's legal team and her experts. The money came from the public. It's called crowdsourcing. boomer. If you're talking about donations made through YouTube, how about you take it up with YouTube? I dare you to accuse YouTube of laundering money. And yes, we believe Karen's legal team are spending that money correctly. We believe that they can account for every penny of it. This is what happens when you gain the trust of the public.
These things, not one newspaper has done anything about it, and the reason they haven't is because they just don't want to deal with it. They just don't want to deal with getting shit from Turtle Boy's followers. So you have to give Turtle Boy credit for creating this. That's another aspect of, I don't want to say what attracted me to this, but you could argue he's created a new business venture that's sort of, unless it's corrected, that witness intimidation can be back in business.
If you're attempting to interfere with Turtle Boy's business partnership with YouTube, well, you're a lawyer. I'm sure you know the consequences without me spelling it out for you.
That's right. That's right. This is why this model has to be defeated now. This obviously the stakes are very important when it comes to justice for the victim or for Karen. It's hugely important
Well,
for the witnesses that
our
are falsely.
system is entirely failing us right now because they are afraid, also because of incompetence, also because of just a terrible initial prosecution. I actually know Hank Brennan. I had the pleasure of meeting Hank on the Whitey Bulger documentary, and I flew down to New York with Hank for the Today Show, and we had a couple lunches together, and I really got to know who Hank is and what motivates Hank and how intelligent Hank is and how disciplined and dedicated Hank is. And Hank is a hell of an attorney.
Hank's a lying liar from Liarsville who doesn't know how to do math. But kudos to you for telling us who you're connected to and who stood to gain the most out of getting Turtle Boy's records from him.
And I think you're going to see a much better prosecution. I guarantee it. And Hank is only in the pursuit of justice. Hank wants justice for John O'Keefe, and he also wants to give Karen Reed justice.
Let me give you one more question, Matt, and then we'll call it a night. What do you think about the strange involvement of the feds here?
I really don't know enough to say anything about that. I think that Karen used that I think she put that out to sort of, I don't know what the word is, to murky the waters. I don't know enough. I know enough to say this. I think that if they had anything to prove anything of a conspiracy, it would have been provided, and they never would have let her go to trial. I mean, I think that's clearly obvious that they never would have let her go to trial if they knew that she was innocent. That's just ridiculous that anybody would think otherwise. It's insane.
And they were required to turn over any exculpatory evidence that they
would never let that. They would never ever let that happen.
So I'm guessing you and Phelps didn't get your hands on the 3,000 plus pages of TUI evidence? And exactly how are the feds supposed to stop a criminal trial? The fact is, they can't. You're a lawyer. You're supposed to know this. The TUI process itself came about as a means for which the feds can introduce exculpatory evidence to the judge of the criminal trial, and it's then up to the judge whether they dismiss the case or not. That's the limit of their power in a criminal case. But hang about, because we've still got Meatball Morrissey's burner email to come yet. If he's found to be influencing that judge in any way whatsoever, then he will be opening the door to the feds stepping in, because their job is dealing with corruption by public officials.
Okay. Right. And I think maybe what they were investigating maybe had something to do with the Birchmore case. Maybe it had to do something otherwise in Norfolk County, unrelated to the case, but might have involved some of the people involved in this prosecution. But I don't think it's related to Karen Reed at all.
Oh no, plevy baby. one of the leading proponents of Karen Read's being involved with the feds from the start. Didn't quite get the answer you were looking for again. Wah.
And I think it's probably over. And I think whatever came about from it has come about from it, and maybe nothing came about from it.
Right. Seems to be the case, although there was a lot of strange behavior by the feds. The U.S. attorney himself questioned the witnesses in the federal grand jury. That's unheard of. He used Turtle Boy's blog as a display in which to use to ask, blown up to ask the questions, to question the witnesses, which was intimidating to the witnesses because it's blown up and they can see here's the powerful U.S. attorney using Turtle Boy's blog to question us, the same guy that is organizing a mob to persecute us.
It's called a chalk, idiot. And protesting public officials is not persecution, it's constitutionally protected activity.
A lot of strange stuff, a lot more than that, but I know.
Well, and unfortunately, I think we as citizens are in a position where we can't sue our government for fucking this up, both the states and the feds, right?
Yeah.
And they're humans, and maybe that's what they did, and maybe that was part of it. Maybe they kind of fucked us up, but maybe the feds fucked us up as well. I mean, we certainly know they're not perfect either. I mean, I have great respect for Levy. I think he's a great attorney and a very wise man.
Ruh-roh. Them's fighting words, buddy. In case you didn't know, Plevy here is the leading proponent of the federal government conspiracy. But of course, you knew that. You vetted this guy before you come on his channel to trash Turtle Boy, right?
But,
I'm not so sure about that. But, I mean, let's look at the difference here, all right? So maybe we can end on this. Matt Phelps had an opportunity here, I think, but went with the truth. And I think Levy jumped in on this case pursuing his own opportunity. We don't know exactly what. But at the end of the day, when he found nothing, he could have protected those witnesses by saying, we found nothing. That's legal. He didn't.
Well, and I think that's where the judges have let us down. I think.
Ruh-roh. That quick change of subject ended up in another place that Plevin wasn't expecting, dissing his all-time favourite Auntie Bev.
The most interesting thing to me was when you look at the day that the judge let in Yannetti. I think Yannetti was giving it, was putting the motion forward on the third party defense. I mean, the judge basically said there's no there. I'm kind of giving you guys like a break. I'm putting my faith in you that really this third party defense is bullshit. But you're promising me you're going to give me something because you gave me nothing in the motions.
Yes, she did protest a little bit, but guess what? She had no choice. Because if she'd have refused Karen Read's constitutional right to have a third-party defence, when there was clearly a nexus between the culprits and the crime, she knew it would get overturned on appeal. But you're a lawyer, you know that, right?
But I'm going to let you go forward with it, and I think that's where she made a mistake. I think she should not have let them go forward with this defense because, they ended up not really bringing anything. And it proved to just be a wild ghost chase. And then where things have also gone wrong are where the court has let Turtle Boy continue to intimidate people online when he's sitting out on bail for witness intimidation.
Amazing.
To me, this is, I don't know any other court that would put up with this. And I can't believe that he's, has not been arrested and thrown back into jail, because that's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to intimidate and silence people. So, on the behest of Karen Read.
Whoa, dude. First up, they seized his device and Karen's devices and they found no evidence of any such thing. And secondly, if you didn't tick off the Karen Read crowd just by being an ignoramus, you certainly done it now. Not only are you supportive of throwing Turtle Boy back in jail for things he hasn't done, but now you're supporting getting Karen Read's bond revoked. Dude, there's no coming back from that.
It's almost like he wants to go back to jail.
Well, I mean, I had originally, even the first, you know, when I was first talking to him, the first time I was getting to know him, I was like, geez, I'm like, Turtle, but the first time before he got arrested, I'm like, you're really saying and pushing a lot of things here. I'm like, dude, if you're going to be arrested in a couple of weeks if you keep this up. I mean, I've never seen the court to take the type of shit that you're saying. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And that's sort of what happened to him. That's, you know, and,
Dope. That's not what you said at all. What you actually said was, it's the last card they had to play, and now you expose them even further. And you're a brave dude. Followed with, I miss you, turtle boy. What a two-faced scumbag you turned out to be, huh?
but look, I'll say this about Turtle Boy. The guy's got balls. He does have balls.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's just, he's, whether he's afraid or not, I don't know. I'm not in his mind. But right now, he's riding it, and he's thinking, they're not going to do a goddamn thing to me. No way. So I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. And I don't care about, you know, whether I'm violating terms of service or whether I'm violating, you know, copyright laws or whether I'm intimidating witnesses or whether I'm defaming anybody. No one's going to do a thing. That's how he feels. And right now he's getting away with it. So good for him.
Well, actually, he's already spent 60 days in the can due to a fake pregnancy test, which accidentally exposed the depth of Meatball's corruption, which does what now? Oh yes, opens the door to the feds to investigate him for public corruption. Every time someone tries to weaponize the law against him, it backfires.
Like one of the stupidest things that's been going on is with the gang stalking, as Turtle Boy has been sending his minions to sort of, you know, give bad reviews to the show. And we'll talk to the
Dude, you are suffering from a severe case of paranoia. The downside of producing a hit piece against somebody that 95% of the world believes is innocent is that 95% of the world is probably going to tell you that your hit piece sucks. Nobody's threatening you. Nobody's coming after you. In fact, from what I'm reading, it's probably constructive criticism. And maybe a bit of sarcasm on the side. You're kind of coming across as a bit of a Karen now.
I do. Phelps did pass me a message that he said, you know, he didn't appreciate you using the emails, and he feels like you're kind of giving into Turtle Boy's agenda with that. So, you know,
Just try to cover it fairly, but I don't want to, you know, there is a problem. There is a legitimate gripe.
Alright, roll. Now Phelps is going to sue you too, Plevin. Just take the L, dude. Anyway, quick summary. The two Matts are in the pocket of the DA, and they're all for locking Turtle Boy up for things he hasn't done, and linking that to Karen Reid so that her bond gets revoked. And you all know how I feel about that situation, so we're probably not done here yet.